5 Empire tactics that broke conquered peoples, and why they worked. Roman legions marching, Mongol horsemen, Spanish conquistadors, British redcoats. The music is epic and unsettling. Empire. The word itself sounds powerful. We think of glory, monuments, and civilizations that span the globe. But behind every great empire is a dark and terrible secret. It's not just about winning wars. It's about breaking the very soul of the conquered. History has given us a masterclass in domination, a playbook of tactics so psychologically devastating they could crush a people's will to resist for centuries. These aren't just battle strategies, they are blueprints for absolute control. And you're about to learn the 5 deadliest. How do you ensure a conquered people never rise against you? You make them forget who they ever were. This isn't just banning a language or a festival. This is cultural genocide. Look at what the Spanish did in the Americas. They didn't just build churches over Aztec temples, they systematically burned nearly every Mayan and Aztec codex they could find. These weren't just books, they were the entire collected knowledge of a civilization, their history, their science, their religion, turned to ash. They effectively deleted a people's memory. Then, they enforced their own language, their own religion, and their own history, until generations later, the descendants of the conquered know more about a king in Europe than they do about their own ancestors. You don't need to patrol every street when you've conquered their minds. Why waste your own men governing a hostile foreign land? The Roman Empire perfected a far more sinister and efficient method. When they conquered a territory, they would demand the children of the local chieftains and kings as wards. But everyone knew what they really were: hostages. These children were taken to Rome, given a first-class Roman education, and raised in the lap of luxury. They were taught Roman military tactics, Roman philosophy, and loyalty to the emperor. After a decade, they were sent back home. But they didn't return as champions of their people. They returned as Romans. They saw their own culture as backward and primitive. When they took power, they didn't lead rebellions, they eagerly brought their people into the Roman system, building Roman-style cities and enforcing Roman laws. Rome didn't just conquer a nation, it stole its next generation of leaders and turned them into willing puppets. It's the most brilliant form of psychological infiltration ever devised. You can survive a lost battle. But you can't survive starvation. The British Empire mastered the art of economic warfare to keep its subjects in a permanent state of dependency. Consider the salt tax in India. The British made it illegal for any Indian to freely collect or sell their own salt, a substance essential for life in a hot climate. Instead, everyone was forced to buy heavily taxed salt directly from the British. This single policy funneled staggering amounts of wealth out of India and into British pockets, while ensuring that even the poorest peasant was economically chained to the empire. It wasn't just about money, it was about control. When you control a people's access to food, salt, and land, you control their very existence. Revolutions are hard to plan on an empty stomach. It's a quiet, bloodless form of domination that can break a population more effectively than any army. What if you could conquer a land without fighting at all? The deadliest empires understood that the ultimate victory is replacing the population itself. The Soviet Union under Stalin perfected this with its mass deportations. After conquering the Baltic states, Stalin didn't just execute the leaders, he rounded up hundreds of thousands of ordinary Latvians, Lithuanians, and Estonians and shipped them in cattle cars to the frozen wasteland of Siberia. Then, he moved hundreds of thousands of ethnic Russians into the newly empty homes and farms. In a single generation, the ethnic and cultural landscape of a region was permanently altered. The goal was to dilute the native population until they were a minority in their own homeland, destroying their political power and their cultural cohesion from the inside out. It is a slow-motion conquest that is nearly impossible to reverse. Of all the tactics of conquest, none is more personal, more humiliating, or more effective at breaking a people's spirit than the systematic sexual enslavement of their women. When the Mongol Empire swept across Asia and into Europe, their armies didn't just kill. They collected. Women were considered a primary spoil of war. They were captured by the thousands, distributed among the soldiers, and used to breed the next generation of Mongol warriors. This wasn't just a byproduct of war, it was a strategic tool. It inflicted the ultimate humiliation on the conquered men, proving they were powerless to protect their own families. It shattered the family unit, the very bedrock of culture and society. And it quite literally replaced the conquered population's bloodline with that of the conqueror. It's a form of biological warfare, ensuring that even the children born in a conquered land are the children of the empire. Cultural erasure, hostage elites, economic strangulation, demographic replacement, and the theft of women. These are the dark arts of empire. They show us that true, lasting conquest isn't won on the battlefield. It's won in the mind, in the family, and in the memory of a people. And it's a playbook that, throughout history, has been brutally effective.